The Trayvon Martin issue, crime, let's call it what it is, crime, continues to dominate the headlines. And I think rightly so. Anderson Cooper last night interviewed a couple of eyewitnesses to the shooting. These two women, Mary Kutcher and Selma Mora Lamilla, who apparently in whose backyard or thereabouts, in proximity to their house, this crime happened, where this fellow, George Zimmerman, who was a wannabe cop, he was in classes to become a police officer, apparently, or at least that's what he told the police in front of these women from what they've said, and, was a neighborhood watch volunteer with a weapon, with a gun. That, this guy, well, what they're saying basically is that the police didn't want to talk to them. They didn't see the shooting, but as soon as the shots were heard, as soon as they heard the shots, they looked out and they saw George Zimmerman straddling the dying body of Trayvon Martin. And they basically said the police didn't want to talk to them. They had their story, which is that, the guy the Zimmerman was innocent because of the so-called castle laws, these so-called stand your ground laws, the shoot first laws that Jeb Bush signed into law as governor of Florida proudly. And that we have in, I believe it's 16 other states in the United States. This is what they said to Anderson Cooper last night.
What was your impression of the police's attitude toward this? Did you form an impression?
They were siding with him.
With Zimmerman?
Oh, yeah.
What makes you say that?
I guess just their nonchalant attitude, because he's in, classes to be a police officer. And, he has a squeaky clean background, which he does not. It has come out what his background is.
The department itself, in my opinion, is guilty of a crime. For police officers to fail to enforce the law or to fail to investigate a crime is itself a crime. There are both standards and laws that govern the behavior of police departments, and they're not following either one. And now apparently it's going to take a grand jury. I guarantee you, if Trayvon Martin had been a 17-year-old white girl instead of a 17-year-old black young man, Mr. Zimmerman would have been in jail faster than you can say, whoops. Guarantee you. This was a kid, his English teacher described him as an A and B student. Zimmerman, on the other hand, had a record of assaulting a police officer back in 2005. He's called the police 46 times since the first of last year. People in his own community. Now, keep in mind, this is a largely white gated community. Trayvon Martin was visiting a family member who lived there, had walked to the 7-Eleven to get some Skittles and a can of iced tea, was walking back home while black. And Zimmerman mutters under his breath about, racial epithets and calling this guy an obscenity and saying, they always get away. And I mean, it sounds to me like this guy, at the very least, George Zimmerman, if he wasn't mentally ill, he was just like not the kind of person you want to have as a next door neighbor. And especially not the kind of person you want to have running around loose with a gun. Well, you can thank Jeb Bush for that. And not the kind of person that you want running around loose with a gun, knowing that there is a law that says that if he feels at all threatened or intimidated, he can kill somebody. You can thank Jeb Bush and the Koch brothers, Alec, and the National Rifle Association for that. The chief of police in the city of Sanford, Bill Lee, he was going to wrap this case up Monday night. No charges. He said, his words, chief of police, Bill Lee, there's no evidence to dispute the shooter's claim of self-defense. No evidence. How about the fact that the shooter weighed 250 pounds, the kid was 140 pounds? How about the fact that the shooter, other than being twice the size of the kid, was almost twice the age of the kid? How about the fact that the shooter was running around with a Keltel 9mm semi-automatic handgun, and the kid who was laying dead on the ground was armed with a bag of Skittles and a can of iced tea? How about the fact that he had been talking to his girlfriend on the phone and describing this guy who was stalking him? I'm talking about Trayvon Martin. He was describing this guy who was stalking him and chasing him. And his girlfriend was saying, run, run, run. And he was saying, no, I'm going to walk fast. I'm not doing anything wrong here. Or that witnesses to the scenes, there was no struggle. This guy wasn't threatened. In the 5 years since the Koch brothers, ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council, which custom rights legislation on behalf of corporations and special interest groups, in this case, the National Rifle Association, and then hands it off to state legislators to propose and pass as if it was written by a legislator. In the 5 years since ALEC handed this legislation off to, some Republican lawmaker in Florida, and they got it through the legislature and Jeb Bush signed it, homicides, so-called justifiable homicides in the state of Florida have tripled. Tripled. This is incredible. And it raises a question about what kind of community we have in America and how we interact with each other, and what does economics have to do with this? Over at equalitytrust.org.uk or I think it's .org.uk or whatever it is. I'll track it down during the break. Just Google Equality Trust. They've done some brilliant research. Wilkerson and others have done some brilliant research on how in societies with unequal distributions of wealth, where you have a lot of very rich and a lot of very poor, you have less social trust than you have in countries where you have high taxes on the very rich and a good social safety net for the very poor, which causes there to be a larger middle class and lower disparities between the rich and poor.